Hi there, welcome to the channel. Today I've got a lovely project to share with you. I'll be showing you exactly how to draw this adorable Jack Russell Terrier from start to finish. Whether you're just getting into drawing or whether you've been at it for a while, you're in the right place. I'll guide you through every line and every shape, nice and slow, so that you can draw along with me. So grab your pencils, get comfy, and let's get started. Okay, let's have a look at this ear over here. We're going to do a very similar process to the other ear. I'm going to start with the warm grey one again, and I've got my graphite line drawing down, and I'm going to leave that there for the minute. I'm going to put the base layer down. I'm not going to go over this line at the edge. I'll take that out afterwards. But the reason that I'm doing it this way around is so that hopefully you can see which section I'm working in as I'm putting the warm grey one from the polychromos down. So I want to sort of be careful and work around this edge at the top. I'm just going to stay just inside the line, and that's going to make it easier for me to erase the graphite line out. If I go over it with the pencil, the colour pencil that is, it's just going to be a little bit harder to erase it. I'll be able to erase it, but I'll end up taking this pencil back off. So I'm just going to stay on the inside of it. It doesn't really matter what pencil strokes I use. I'm using circular strokes to put this warm grey one in. I will want to take that bit out. I'm just going to dab that bit out now. This little line here, I'm just going to take it back a little bit so I can just about see it. Hopefully you can see that on the video. And then I'm sort of working in sections again, so even though it's one colour that's going down, it's quite useful for me to work in sections from the very beginning so that I can sort of get a feel as to what direction the ear is going. As I see quite strong graphite lines, I am just going to dab those out just a little bit. Let's just bring the colour pencil in around here. Now this bit in here, I'm just going to follow that round. I'm just going to work into that. That's the bit that's going to go quite dark. Now this ear, because it's sort of bending over backwards on itself, there's a lot of shapes in here that really don't make any sense at all. So for that reason, especially if you're quite new to colour pencils, I wouldn't go and take all of your graphite lines out too early. You can sort of take them back a little bit, you can dab into them like I'm doing here, but I wouldn't take them all out completely because that's quite a strange looking ear. As I'm looking at it, there's no sort of shape that I can see that suggests to me, yes, that's an ear. It's because it's sort of bending over and backwards on itself, but that's okay. We're going to put a slightly darker bit in around here. Just using these circular strokes, but just thinking about those sections as I'm putting this pencil in. I don't want to press on really, really hard with the pencil. You can see that's a little bit darker there, and I did tip my pencil up and I've just sort of made it a little bit darker. I haven't pressed on anymore, I've just sort of tipped it up to get the point of the pencil a bit more, and then I can get more pencil down on the paper. So, but that's going to go quite dark in there anyway. But the important thing is to just get that nice even base layer. And then I'm going to use my razor and just take that graphite line off the top, around underneath as well. Just anywhere where I can see that it's going to be quite light. I'm just taking it off the edge. And that was my Tombow Mono Zero eraser, but any eraser will do. All I'm doing is just taking the graphite off on the edge of the ear, and then picking up any crumbs with that kneadable eraser. So like before, like we did on the other side, I want to start to sort of plot in the shapes now. Because there's a lot of orange on this side, sort of orange-brown colours, the colour that I'm going to plot in with is going to be the burnt umber. I think I said earlier in this project that whenever I see oranges or orange sort of brown colours, I always think of picking up the burnt umber when I want to go to a darker pencil. So I'm going to use the burnt umber. I know that it's a colour that's in here, so I know it's going to be quite a safe colour to plot things in with. If I make a mistake, I know it's a colour that I'll be able to go over with quite easily. And what I want to do is very, very gently, so I'm holding my pencil quite far back. I've got it tipped over on its side. I'm not holding it up really sort of pointed. You can see how much more colour pencil pigment came off the end of the pencil when I tipped it up. So this time I want to tip it over so that I can get a nice soft pencil stroke. I've got quite a sharp pencil, but it has got a little bit of a used end on the end of it. And I don't want to draw a solid line. I want to very gently just work backwards and forwards and sketch in this darker bit. I'm just looking for the shapes. That's all I'm looking for. Now we've got a shape that's coming over the end and it comes down here. So I'm just sort of using backwards and forward strokes to plot these lines in quite gently. This is going to be much darker around here, underneath here, and then that's going to be really, really light, so I don't really need to do much with that bit just at the minute. I'm going to go into this darker bit. I'm going in with the burnt umber. I will make it darker again. There will be, you know, maybe some walnut, some dark sepia colours that I can see will work in there, but I can still plot it in with a lighter colour. I don't have to go straight to the walnut or the dark sepia. It's all of these layers that are going down, they're filling in the grain and they're adding other colours into the mix, which is going to be really quite useful to get that natural looking ear at the end. I'm just working around the side because it comes around and under, doesn't it? And then there's sort of a little light bit, so I'm just going to work on that little light bit and just start to think about plotting in the back of this shape. Now I don't need to get all of this colour in the back here. I'm just sort of, the reason that I'm putting this in is just to put that little light bit in there. I just want to plot that little light bit in and take that back. And then let's have a look. We have got, let's just have a look at this on the top. That's a very dark bit there. So let's just work in with that bit there. That's a dark shape. We're keeping the pencil tipped over because again this is really very sort of diffused. It's really softly focused. I want that to look quite blurred at the end. I don't want it to be really strong. It's the eyes and the nose that are going to sort of really take the focus of the viewer's eye at the end when we finish this portrait. So I'm keeping the pencil tipped over and that's helping me to get quite a fuzzy sort of feel. And the reason it's a fuzzy feel is because you've got quite a thick sort of pencil stroke at the end of that pencil where I'm creating that little chisel tip because I'm holding the pencil over. It creates quite a broad pencil stroke, and that helps to get this softly focused section in. So I'm just going to work around here. Again, it's not quite the right colour. We're going to need to go to the burnt sienna type, those orange colours. But it's a really good colour for me to start plotting in with. If I went in and plotted this in with the burnt sienna, which I could do, but as soon as I start to make this area and this area darker, which I've got to do, you can see on the reference photograph, these two areas are darker. As soon as I go in with the burnt siennas to make these darker, I'll lose all these shapes. I'll lose these bits plotted in. That's the reason that I've chosen a slightly darker pencil than the colour that I know I'm going to come to next. I know I'm going to want the burnt ochres, the burnt siennas, maybe a little bit of the Caput Mortem violet, I think we were using red violet, weren't we? Because there's sort of the reddiness around here. So I've gone for something that's slightly darker, something that I still know is going to be in the ear. It's going to be really easy to blend out. I don't want to plot these bits out with black. Even plotting them out with something like dark sepia, it's just going to be too much. It's going to be, you know, too sort of strong. So I'm plotting them out with a colour that is just darker than the colours that I'm going to go into next, because I'm going to go and work on, you know, this bit and these bits. Otherwise, if I plotted that out with a burnt sienna, I'd just lose it straight away as soon as I started building up those sort of mid-tone colours. That's not what I want to do. It's a little bit down there. So I'm just looking for the shapes. This again is ever so slightly darker around here, but you can see how light I'm doing it. You can see how much grain is coming through what I'm putting down, and that's absolutely fine. I don't want to try and get rid of all of this grain straight away. I want to just build it up in stages. This little bit on the ear here, so this is the top bit, this is this little bit that's sort of right on the top, and then this bit underneath here is actually starting to curve around because it's the under part of the ear. So I'm going to start to get that curve going with this burnt umber. And at the same time, I'm going to work around this lovely light bit that we've got and just work down there. Okay, now that will do for the first bit of my plotting in. I've got the shapes in. I can see what I'm working with now. I don't worry now if I need to sort of get rid of the graphite lines, or if I lose the graphite lines if I cover them over. This is quite a nice place for me to start to think about putting some colour in that ear. So let's start to think about getting some of these orange colours in. I'm going to start with the burnt ochre from the polychromos. The burnt ochre sort of comes around here a little bit, so I'm just going to very gently put this in over the top of this warm grey that we've got. Again, I've got my pencil tipped over on the side. I want the whole of the sort of finish of this ear, the look of this ear when I'm finished, to be quite soft. So I'm just tipping my pencil over on the side, and I'm just using backwards and forwards pencil strokes. If we just come back to this piece of paper, it's just, I think it was this one here, wasn't it? It's just backwards and forwards pencil strokes, keeping my pencil on the paper. That's how I'm putting the pencil down to keep it nice and soft. So I've got some of the burnt ochre in there. I'm also going to bring in a little bit of the ivory and just blend over the top of the burnt ochre. Now, I've put the burnt ochre down really softly, really lightly in terms of pressure. So I can just push it around a little bit with the ivory that's going over the top and just mix it a bit. Create more of that sort of apricot peach colour that I want. Just blend that out. There we go. I'm also going to use the burnt ochre up on the top of the ear up here. Again, I've got that pencil just tipped over. The last thing I want to do is to make this ear really, really strong and really detailed. I want that fuzziness, that blurred finish to come through at the end. So most of this ear, if not all of it actually, I should be putting the pencil down, holding my pencil quite far back. I mean, you can see that's almost a full pencil, and I'm sort of holding it halfway back, and it's tipped over. So it's tipped over to maybe about 45 degrees, so that it's not uncomfortable, you know, I'm not trying to sort of stretch my hand into an uncomfortable position, but it's just allowing me to create that lovely, can you see that there? If I put that there, can you see that flat end right on the end? That's giving me a nice wide pencil stroke to put the colour down, and that's pretty much how all of this colour is going to go down, because it's really quite fuzzy, quite diffused, quite blurred. There we go. So I've got that little bit on the top. I'm also just going to bring a bit around here. I'm happy to move into this section because I can see that division that I've put in. So this bit has to come around. So even though I'm just putting the one colour in, and you know, you probably think, why am I sort of working around in the sections? Because I'm actually starting to build up the shape of the ear. Even with this one colour, I'm getting the pencil strokes sort of going in the direction that I want them to go in. It could be that I can't see any direction. That's fine. If I can't see it, I'm obviously not trying to put it in, but I want to just work on it in sections so that I don't lose where I am, and at the same time, even with just one pencil, you can start to build up the structure. And you can start to build up the structure by perhaps just, for instance, going over, let's just do it here a bit so you can see, just going over it a few more times. So I'm not sort of making it any, I'm not pressing down any harder, but I am making the area just a bit more intense, and it's just starting to get that shape in. I don't know if you can hear all that grumbling in the background. That's my computer grumbling away, working overtime, I think. Let's just get that little bit in as well. and a bit around there, and then that bit there is just a little bit more pink. I'm just going to pick up my burnt ochre 10% and I'll just put a little bit of pink in there just to remind me that that's different. Bring a little bit of pink in down the sides down here as well. So back to this section where we've just mixed the ivory and the burnt ochre. Just bring a little bit of the peachiness in there, that burnt ochre 10%. Okay, so we've got that in. We've got started to put those midtones in. I'm going to come in with the burnt sienna and I'm going to go back to darkening down now those bits that I put in with the burnt umber to start with. So I can see that this is much darker around here. I just need to go back to my burnt ochre because I didn't put anything in here, did I? Let's just get that in. You may have done that, but I just need to put that back in. And then let's just use backwards and forwards pencil strokes. I'm not taking my pencil off the paper until I come to this edge here, and then when I come to the edge I will flick that pencil in using those pencil strokes where I just sort of work the pencil in the direction that the fur's going and then just flick it off at the end so that I can get that lovely feathered effect. So I'm just going to work down the side of this bit because this is quite feathered around here. I just need to make sure that I'm looking at the direction and just getting that direction, and I need to just change the direction there. I'm also going to work off the side of the face here. Work off the dark bit. Now, when I work off the dark bit into a lighter bit, I want to always work the pencil from dark to light. If I come back to my piece of paper, I can explain this to you. Let me grab a couple of pencils. So I'm going to grab the black and the warm grey too. So sorry, warm grey one, so that I can just explain it quite easily, so you can see what I mean. When you've got a dark colour down, so let's just say we've got a dark colour, which in this case is obviously quite a dark sort of black brown colour. Let me just put that underneath. So I've got the dark colour down there. And if I want to blend into a lighter colour, which I do over here, I want to take the pencil and I want to put the pencil in the darker side and then work out that way. And if I do that, I get a nice clean bit of pencil in the lighter side. You can see that's nice and clean, and I can just keep working it and it'll just keep very gently sort of blending that edge, but always working from the dark side to the light side. If I work from the light side to the dark side, so let's do this. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to work up into the dark side and you'll see what will happen. So I'm working from the light side into the dark side. And can you see how I've got quite a muddy, dirty colour? It's nowhere near as clean to start with. This colour isn't as clean as this, and can you see I've got this line along the bottom? And that's what happens when you work from light to dark. And the reason that that's happening is because as I work from dark to light, my pencil goes down into the dark. And as I put my pencil in the dark, it picks up. The dark pencil, the dark pigment picks up on the edge of the light pencil. But as I sweep out from the light to dark, and I'm taking my pencil off at the end, as I sweep out from light to dark, my pencil is hitting the dark side, and by the time I've sort of dragged it out, it's cleaned off that dark pigment. So I've got a nice clean light area on the outside. If I start from the light to the dark, I put my pencil down in the light, I pick up the dark pencil, and then I've obviously got the dark pencil on the end of my pencil. So when I come back down, already, look, you can see it's starting to create that mess. And it's just because I'm picking up the dark pencil in the dark area and then going straight back down into a nice clean area and just smudging it. So you always need to work from dark to light when you're blending colours. That's particularly useful when you're going from a very dark colour to a very light colour. If you've got two colours that are very similar, you probably won't notice that much of a difference, but when you're working with colours that are quite different, it's a really good idea to just go from dark to light all the time and not from light to dark, because you're just going to pick up that colour. Okay, so let's work back from this dark bit. So for me, it's just habit. No matter what colour I am blending, I'll just go from the dark to the light. Another thing to sort of say about that is that once you've gone over the dark area with the lighter colour, so here, for instance, once I've gone over that darker area with the lighter colour, the dark pencil, it gets trapped underneath because obviously there's a lighter colour, a lighter layer over the top of it. So it doesn't make quite so much of a mess if you use the pencil from the light to dark. But it's still just, I find it's good practice. I find it's just useful to always do it, and then you don't forget where you are. So let's have a look. Right, so we're going to bring this bit down here, right on the edge down here. That's a dark bit that's going in there. Let me just put that dark bit in. This is the Payne's grey. I'm just going to get that dark bit in there so I know where I am. Put that dark bit there. And then let's come back to the burnt sienna. Now we've got the edge of the ear up here. We've got the dark bit that is feathering into quite a light bit. This is quite light here, this little bit. And then we've got this darker bit that's running down the edge of the ear. It sort of follows up from the edge there, so it's down here, isn't it? So I'm just leaving the lighter bit right on the edge and then running this up and over. This is going to go really, really quite dark around here, but I'm just looking for the darker bits again. We've got a darker bit right on the top up here. Now I don't have to put everything in one go. There's quite a lot going on in the top of this ear. Even though you can't really see much, you can't see much detail, there are an awful lot of shapes going on in the top of this ear. So my suggestion would be to just work on it slowly, to just deal with it slowly. You don't have to go and put everything in one go. This is the top bit of the ear that I'm working on here. So I'm bringing that ear over. And before I go too far, I'm going to switch to the Caput Mortem Violet, because I don't want to lose this divide under the ear. So I'm just bringing this divide, or bringing the Caput Mortem Violet along this divide that we've got, this little division between the top and the bottom. And I'm working the pencil. I'm keeping it tipped over again. I don't want any really strong lines in the ear. I want it to just be quite sort of even coverage. I want it to be quite an even coverage of pencil. Let's just work down this little bit down here. So everything that's on the top there now is the top part of the ear, and then this is underneath. Now I said I could see some Caput Mortem Violet, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just putting the Caput Mortem Violet in just to get that distinction in. I'm also just going to curve it around the side. It starts to curve around the side there. Just building it up really, really slowly. I can also see that we have got a darker bit, or quite a red bit, but it is darker. Quite a red-brown bit under here, so I'm just going to start to bring this in. Just bringing a little bit of that red right the way round up to this little bit that we left here, right on the crease. And you just have to trust that the shapes that you're seeing are going to actually make this ear look like an ear, at the end. The shapes are there for a reason. They're there on the reference photograph, and we need to sort of get them into the ear, and that's going to help make that ear look like an ear at the end, even though at the minute there's nothing that you could look at and say, well, that's an ear, I can see that's an ear. I can see that there's a little bit of red around, or it's sort of a reddy brown. I'm going to put a bit in there as well. Bring that under the ear there. There we go. So once again, I've started to build a little bit more structure into the ear. This is the dark sepia, and I'm going to use the dark sepia right up on the top of here. There's a dark bit right on the top where the face, the side of the face, the forehead just joins into this ear. So I want to just darken this down. Now for this, I'm actually holding my pencil up a little bit because I want a little bit more control, and I do want some nice wispy bits to very gently sort of fall back into onto the forehead. I'm just going to very, very gently darken that down right up at the top. I'll go a little bit darker again. I will put a little bit of black in there, but I need to get a bit of brown in there. So right on the top. And just feather that back in to the face. I'm also just going to use this dark sepia and just raise up the side of the forehead just a little bit there, because it goes a bit higher than the rest of the forehead. There we go. And whilst I've got the dark sepia in my hand, I'm looking for other areas now where I can see bits are darker. Now this is obviously really, really quite dark here, right on the bottom of this top part of the ear. So I'm going to darken that little bit down. It's darker inside the ear here, so I'm going to darken that bit down. Start to darken it down gently. And the reason that I want to darken bits down is because these mid-tone areas where we're putting the caput mortuum and the burnt sienna, they're starting to get darker now. So I need to take my darker bits darker, and that's how I'll just build it up nice and balanced. I'm going to put a little bit of the dark sepia over this caput mortuum violet because I want the red to come through, but I don't want it to be really red. I'm just going to take the dark sepia around this curve on this ear as well. Just curve that down. Start to shape under that ear. And wherever I see a darker bit, I'm just going to add a little bit of colour into it. I can still go back and top it up and make it darker, but I'm just going to start to add a little bit of colour. It saves me keep picking pencils up and down, and that's one of the reasons that I do sort of, go around looking for things. And also the other reason that I find quite useful once I've got a colour in my hand is you start to sort of get your eye in for that colour on the reference photograph. So when you start working with a colour and you're looking at the reference photograph, you start to sort of isolate those colours and pick them out. So that can be useful as well. Don't want to make it too dark though. That's something that I don't want to do. I'm going to come back in with the burnt ochre in a minute, but before I do that, I'm going to use the cinnamon, and there's a little bit of pink just down the top of that ear there. So I'm going to bring a little bit of that in, and also a little bit in under here. I think in the list of materials that I gave out with part 1 of this, I mentioned crimson. Haven't used crimson yet. The reason that I had put crimson in was to add a little bit of the crimson around here, because I could see that it was a much sort of cooler pink around here, and also there was a little bit of it over on the ear over here. So I'm going to just use it literally because I've put it in the supply list. So I want to just use it so that you can see what my thinking was when I actually put it on the supply list. So that's the only reason that I'd got it on there. You can see that, you know, it's not absolutely essential. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Just carry on with whatever colour pinks and whatever colours you're using, that's fine. But I'm just going to put a little bit in because I realised I'd put it on the supply list. Let's come back to the burnt ochre and let's bring some of this lovely rusty orange colour over the top of this ear, working down in the direction that I can see the furs going. This actually sort of just curves around here a bit like this, doesn't it? Let's just get some colour in there. I'm just keeping the colour, the pencil on the page and just colouring, really, just colouring it in, just keeping my pencil on the page at the end of every pencil stroke. I'm just going to switch to circular strokes on the top of this dark bit though, because I want that dark bit to be nicely blended. This is the cinnamon, and I'm going to bring a bit of the cinnamon right up on the top of here. Just goes a little bit more pink right up on the top. Whilst I've got the cinnamon in my hand, I'm also going to bring a little bit of it around here. And just spotting that colour as I'm looking around the space. So just bringing a little bit of it in. I can bring a bit of it under here as well. It is quite orange, but every now and again I can just see a little bit of pink coming through. So, and then back to the burnt ochre. And I very gently just blend what's on the top in with the darker bit on this side. So I'm just going to let that burnt ochre run over and into the fur on the forehead that we've put down, and then just very gently let that sort of work its way up and over, and then carry on over and into the top of that ear. Still got that pencil tipped over. And I can bring this burnt ochre into these light bits now. I've got enough pigment down now so that I'm not going to lose these light bits or this lighter bit right on the edge. So I can bring that into the edge. And I'm just going to come back to that cinnamon again because I can see that the cinnamon just goes a little bit further down. You may have done that. I just needed to bring that just a little bit further down. So it's a case of working backwards and forwards now, going between the darks and the lights, looking for the shapes, until I've got the sort of depth of colour that I want. I can see that I need to make things a bit darker. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with the black right up on the top of here. I'm just going to tap that black into the top. Now, I don't want to put this black everywhere. I've put the dark sepia down to keep that brown coming through. I definitely don't want to just go over it all with the black. I want to just tap that black in every now and again, just to darken down that dark sepia there. So that will probably do with the black actually. Just blend it into the forehead a little bit. Don't want to use too much black. That will probably do for the black. Just curving it over as I bend it down and into the, or as I bring it over to the forehead, just curving that over just a little bit. I'm going to start with the walnut because I want to darken down under this ear, but I don't want to make it too dark just yet. So I'm going to use the walnut to get things a little bit darker, a bit more intense. And I'm going to find circular strokes really, really useful because it means I can put the colour down, but I can keep everything looking really soft. So I'm going to put the pencil down with circular strokes and then just very gently blend it out. I want to just bring a bit of the walnut brown over this side around here. Just to curve that around there, just making a little curve right on the edge. And also just bringing a bit of the walnut under here. We've got a slightly lighter bit and then it goes a bit darker. So I'm going to put a little bit of the walnut in. Just bring that down. Just following that light bit around in a really, really gentle way. Don't need to put much pigment down at any one time. There we go. And then curve it over around the back of this. Around the back of this bit that's going to be dark here. Even though I'm trying to get things darker all the time, I'm pressing on really, really lightly. And I get that intensity of the pencil. And I say it all the time, but it is something that I think is really easy to forget, that you don't get anywhere any faster by pressing on any harder. I'm just going to bring a little bit of the walnut over the top here as well, just to very gently blend that out. But you can see it's just a glaze. I can still see the burnt ochre coming through underneath. I'm going to come back to a little bit of this Caput Mortuum violet up here, and around the dark bit up here I'm going to bring some of this pink through. I'm not trying to completely go over the burnt ochre. I want that burnt ochre to come through. I still want that orange to come through. I just want to be able to see a bit of this lovely pinky red colour coming through here and there. Just blending the top edge of that ear up into the lighter bit. I've got a bit of the Van Dyke brown here as well, and the Van Dyke brown is going to be really, really useful. The Van Dyke brown is another colour that I think of as being quite a pink colour, and it's quite useful when I'm working. You know, we've got this Caput Mortuum violet in here, so we've got these reds coming in here now, and that's quite a useful colour, the Van Dyke brown. What I am going to do though is take my kneadable eraser and I'm going to dab it right on the top of here to create a little triangle. I need to just take a little bit of that back out. I've gone over that. Bring a little highlight right on the edge there. And then back with the Van Dyke brown. And just building it up with glazes. Still looking for those shapes. There's still shapes that I'm seeing now that I didn't see at the start, and that's partly because, you know, the more you look at something, the more you see, and it's partly because I've got a different colour in my hand, so I'm looking for different colours in the reference photograph and therefore seeing different shapes. But I'm just always building up, looking for the shapes. I'm going to come back to a little bit of the burnt ochre 10% to just put that highlight in, that little triangle, and I'm just going to run a bit of the burnt ochre from the polychromos over it as well. Now the light bit around here, we had it quite light. We were obviously preserving it, you know, as we were working, but now I can start to darken that down a little bit because it's not actually anywhere near as obvious on this side. It's a bit more obvious on this side. So darken that down just a little bit. And then I'm going to use the dark sepia, and I want to make sure that I've got a nice shape over this ear here, where the top bit comes over the bottom bit. I also want to darken this bit down and just shape that a little bit more. So where it goes really, really dark, I'm running the pencil over it several times to make it nice and dark, right in, you know, the bits that have got to go dark. But then along the edge of it, so on the top, I'm just sort of really, really gently. I wasn't pressing on hard here, but I was going over the area several times. But when I get to the edge of it, then I'm literally just running my pencil over the edge of it. It's just the weight of the pencil that is running my pencil sort of along that line, but letting it creep out a little bit. And that's what's creating a softer edge on this dark bit. I just want to run the dark sepia over the colours, add a glaze, and just darken bits down. So I'm just using the dark sepia now to just darken areas, just add that glaze. Let's just bring that over the top here. Going to very gently shape around this really dark bit, that fold in the ear. I'm just going to use the burnt ochre. This is the burnt ochre, and just blend the side of the face in to the ear. Just take that over, just very gently blend that in. the burnt ochre 10%, because it's a luminance pencil, it's a really opaque pencil, so it will sit on the top of the other colours really nicely, and really useful pencils to blend. They're good at all stages, but I find that they are really, really useful when it comes to blending, because they just put a nice heavy coverage down. Blending at the end, really, they put a lovely heavy coverage down and just bring things together and put quite a heavy bit of pencil over the top. So here I can just bring the colour over that dark bit that we've put down. I don't need to put it everywhere. I'm just blending bits out with it. And then I'm also going to use the white Pablo, but you could use the white luminance. I just happened to have the Pablo close to hand, and it was one that, you know, I decided I was going to use for this tutorial. But anything, you could even use the white polychromos. It's just to add a little bit of highlight here and there into the top of this ear. I'm not looking to make things white, I'm just looking to lighten bits that have gone down already. So, and the nice thing about it is then you can then go over the top and sort of start again. Not start again, because obviously you've already got a lot of pencil down, but you can go back in and just intensify colours, but everywhere's just a bit more blended. So I find that really, really useful. So we're nearly there with this. I'm going to come back with the burnt sienna and just darken bits down that need a little bit more saturation. Let's just bring that around here. So just backwards and forwards pencil strokes, and a little bit of the burnt ochre, just to get that orange back in where I might have lost it a bit. And it's just little scribbles to just put a bit of the burnt ochre back in, a bit of the orange back in. Going to bring in a little bit of black as well, right into this really dark bit. Just so that we can see that that ear is bending over. I don't want to put the black everywhere, just tapping it in here and there, just to darken little bits down. As I've been blending this area out a little bit, I've lost a bit of the dark sort of intensity of it. So I'm just going to finish off with the Payne's Grey. Maybe a little bit of black as well, but definitely the Payne's Grey. And just make sure that I've got a nice dark bit right on the edge of the face. Just to make sure that it's really obvious that I've got a nice blend and I've got a nice sort of dip on the face around here. Darken this down. This was quite dark down here anyway, wasn't it? I'd already put some colour into here. Just darken that, just shape that a little bit. I'm going to use a little sweep of the ultramarine in there. It's just a little sweep, and then I'm going to use the white to just blend that. Don't want too much of the blue in there, but I did need just a little bit of blue, and just blend that in. This is the white polychromos I've just picked up this time. You know, it could be any white you've got, that's fine. And the only other thing I'm going to do right on the end is to just take this Payne's grey and very gently add a little bit right on the end there. Just running up the side of that light a bit. I'm just going to go back with the burnt ochre and just run that down there. And I think that will probably do for the ear for the minute. I might need to come back and adjust it. I say that all the time, but you know, that's what happens. I'll just go away, have a look at another area, always looking over the area that I've just worked on. And I might need to come back and adjust it. I won't say that that bit's finished until I actually put my pencils down and, you know, decide that it's finished. So I think I'm going to leave that bit like that. I think that looks like an ear. We've got that curved bit that's going back. So I think I'm going to leave that bit like that for now, and I think we'll come down and we'll work on his nose. And that's it for this part of the tutorial. Thanks so much for drawing along with me. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part of our Jack Russell project. I'll be back soon with the next video, but if you're itching to start another drawing in the meantime, head over to my website or check out my Patreon page. You'll find lots more tutorials and exclusive projects waiting for you there. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.